Oh, some of the most miraculous and really amazing stories other nurses and healthcare workers shared with me. I still think about every single day. I've shared some of them on my channel here. Now, I did put a video out a little bit ago, and it was like talking about kind of some of the dark things nurses and other healthcare workers have seen when patients are dying, because I never really talk about that. And then a couple people commented, like, wow, no good news, like nothing positive. So today we're going to do, especially as we head into Halloween here, we're in the October season. Let's talk about some really beautiful and happy stories. Now, by the way, if you're new to my channel, hello, welcome. I'm Dr. Andrea O'Connor, and I am a practicing physician here in Arizona, but I also went to nursing school and still have my license as an RN and still work full time. So, where should we start? Well, I have to say, by the way, happy October. May I mention one author, Ray Bradbury? If you haven't read any of his books, I just love his books for the fall season. So if you haven't read any of his books, especially if you're younger, look up Ray Bradbury. Maybe start with Something Wicked This Way Comes. Such a good book. And if you read that before, like as a kid, reread it again. It just plays so differently as an adult. Okay, so let's get into these stories. Now, again, I worked in hospice for 10 years, and I remember some really remarkable stories, especially the ones where, dying patients that were nonverbal, not talking to their loved ones, not talking to their family members or visitors, all of a sudden, right at the end of their life, they would wake up and be completely alert and lucid and talk to all of those around them and really gave their family peace. Like, imagine not talking to your sick relative for months because they can't. And all of a sudden, hours before they die, they're up, alert, talking to you. It's amazing. I've seen that more than once. And the other ones I remember is when patients would get better, like we would put them on hospice and they absolutely qualified. There's a criteria to get onto hospice. And I kid you not, and I've seen this several times, we would take them off all their medications. And then they're getting round the clock help. So we have nurses and doctors and therapists and all these people visiting them frequently. So they're finally getting a little supportive care. And a lot of times they would get better and graduate out of hospice. Did you even know that was a thing? Like if you do a 180 and you get much better, you can actually come off hospice and go back home. Or sometimes hospice will come in the home. You just say, hey, everyone, thank you, but here's the door. I don't need you anymore because I'm all better. I always loved when that happened too. Well, let's get into some of these true stories by healthcare workers. Now, a lot of these I did compile from guideposts.org and, some from YouTube as well. But apparently these are all true stories cited by the nurses and healthcare workers that saw it. Okay, so the first one, this hospice nurse witnessed a young patient who was actively dying suddenly recover. Yeah, just what I talked about. After the nurse saw a large, solid, cream-colored being. I've never heard it described like that. Usually I hear like they're so bright it's hard to look at, or a white, bright light enters the room, or it's not a shadow person, it's this bright orb that comes in and fleets out. No, this person described it as a large, solid, cream-colored being that they described as looking like an angel, just standing protectively in the room. I could just see that, just being kind of in the corner of the room, just standing there like a sentinel. I could see that. Apparently, the patient woke alert as all get out, started to eat pancakes, laughing with her children, and lived a pain-free life for another 3 months before they did finally pass away. It's almost like, whatever your religious or spiritual beliefs are, or the wonders of the brain, to be quite honest, right? It's almost as if that angel was like, look, you need at least 3 more months with your kids to really prepare them for this, and that's what we're going to gift you. Yeah, amazing, right? So in this other story, we have a 54-year-old cancer patient that was very, very ill, and the hospice nurse came in and agreed with the patient. They actually agreed because the woman, the patient, said she saw this huge, big angel standing by her bedside and was always there. And the patient would say, I see this angel. They're always smiling. They're like giving me comfort. They're protecting me. And the hospice nurse affirmed that the woman's vision was true because she witnessed it herself. Yeah, this is just, I think this gives people a comforting glimpse of a reality closer to heaven or the dimension that's just right here. Yeah, just gives you that little glimpse into it. Okay, this is one that I can deal with because I've kind of had other colleagues tell me stories like this or have seen things like this in hospice. So this hospice nurse had a patient dying from lung disease, and he was really entering the end of his life. And this is what he told the nurse. He said he had a visit from his son, that had been imprisoned. So the son couldn't come in the room because he was in prison. And the patient said he expressed forgiveness and love with perfect lucidity and interpreted this as a spiritual encounter. That's interesting. So you just wonder, was the son asleep in prison and was he dreaming and his soul could have astrally projected to his dying patient? His dying father who was a patient. And this is what the hospice nurse heard the patient say, that his imprisoned son came and saw him. That's really fascinating. I find that's very fascinating because, I definitely believe and have had lucid dreams where you're in a dream state, but you are experiencing, I'm just going to say, another realm, another dimension, but it's so real and it's very different from your typical dream. And I think that is where spirits and even the living can still communicate in that other dimension. I think that's a possibility. Okay. But, I'm still open to the fact that there could be something. What is going on with my hair? I'm sorry. I keep going yeah. I think there's a possibility that there's amazing things in the brain also that we don't understand. But I am team conduit. I do believe our brain acts as a conduit and we can receive messages from realities and dimensions that we can't see or sense with our 5 or 6 senses. Yeah. So here's one. This hospice nurse said, patient was dying from pancreatic cancer and kept asking, who is that man standing over there by the willow tree by the lake? Now, of course, there was no willow tree or lake because this person is in their hospital room with pancreatic cancer. And there's no lake or willow tree there, but literally the patient was like seeing this, visible only to him, the patient. And then he said it was God. He said that man by the willow tree was God and that everything was okay and like beckoning him. He apparently passed away peacefully a few hours later as witnessed by this nurse. And this nurse to this day says it was a divine vision that patient had. I love that one. That one, if you guys wanted like some good stories, some happy stories to look forward to, that's a good one. Again, I say it again, like when you work in hospice, you see things you don't see in regular medicine. You really do. So this story, this hospice nurse witnessed this 34-year-old who unfortunately had chronic disease, was near death, witnessed him focus on his family's love as a reflection of the even greater love awaiting him on the other side. And the patient was describing death as a positive thing, that there's more, that this isn't the end of the world. I feel like it's a beautiful story, by the way, but I feel like some patients, at least what I have seen, when they get to the end of life and they're getting ready to transition on, because I'm one of those that believes that the soul is energetic and it never is destroyed, it's eternal, that they really get this phenomenal wisdom and understanding, like all of a sudden, like, oh, this isn't the end. There's a lot of love on the other side. It's the ultimate eternal love, and they're getting ready to move over to that. Yeah. So, in this story, a hospice nurse observed an elderly patient exhibiting the death stare. So, this is when patients, I don't know, I don't really use that terminology with patients, but this is when patients are kind of fixating on an unseen point in the room, at least from the perspective of the visitor in the room, because they're literally seeing the other dimension, a vision, or a deceased loved one in the room. They're like fixated on that point in the room. And usually, for some reason, it's up there. You see a lot of patients doing that. But sometimes it's like straight ahead, like right across. And this patient had a huge smile on their face. Their gaze was fixed to that point of the room. And when asked, "What are you looking at over there?" this patient responded he was seeing God. And the rest of his final days before he passed was completely peaceful. I've seen that happen too when patients are at the end of life and they are resonating kind of with that energy, with that love, with that light, that their pain diminishes greatly. I've always thought to myself when I was witnessing a patient with that experiencing too, like, is their energy or their soul always like literally lifting out of their mortal shell, their mortal coil, right? Is it lifting out and that's why the pain decreases? I've seen that in the positive scenarios, not the negative ones. But again, I have videos where I talk about the negative scenarios where patients are thrashing in pain until the very end, but they are not connected at all with love or peace or anything yet. So this hospice nurse, okay, this is another one. I've witnessed this myself as well. This hospice nurse said that the patient's wife was reporting that the husband, despite having all these cognitive issues, think dementia, think Alzheimer's at end of life, right? Was having visions of his recently deceased sister-in-law who came to visit him multiple times to inform him of her passing, that I guess she passed away and they didn't know about it. And it left him smiling and he was at peace with the news. So imagine you have so just to encapsulate this, the wife's husband sounds like dementia or Alzheimer's. So really not communicating well, not know what's going on, but kept saying, "I saw your sister," because it was his sister-in-law, "and she's okay. She's passed on. She's okay." Like became peaceful and smiling. Like he did understand that, even though he didn't know what was on TV, didn't know what family was there, but he did understand that. Because again, I think a piece of our soul, our being, is connected to the other side at all times. That's what they say with higher self. But I think too, when we're dying, we're so much more closer to the other side that you are connecting with things and you're bringing some of that over to this side. At least that is my opinion. This is what I observed in hospice as well. So I do completely believe these stories because they resonate with things that I've seen and what other nurses and colleagues have told me as well. So I hope that was some good news as we move into October. I love October, the Halloween season. I'm going to try to do a video every day for October. I'm going to try to keep it light for the most part, but yes, I do want to talk about scary things too. I do, because you got to have a balance, right? Okay, everyone, thanks for being here, and I'll see you on the next one. Happy October.